seminar. Melissa Matarese with Misa Lifestyle and Beyond Sustainability. Welcome. We also want to welcome Ellen Mook with Langen and Linda Kelly with carbonfund.org Foundation. George Mulligan is with us today from Clear Result. He does home energy audits. And last but certainly not least, Tom Marino with Atrium Financial. Welcome all of you. Thank you. And this is the part where, as the moderator, my heart leaps up into my throat and I say, okay, I'm opening it up for questions. So now I want to see thumbs up go up, and I want to have some people who have some questions, because we had some really good and interesting presentations for our seminar this year, and wanted to get things rolling. So hold on, one at a time, people, one at a time. I can't handle all these thumbs up at the same time.
I have a question. I don't know how to do a thumbs up.
That's okay, Pam. Then just wave your hand like you did. That works too. Apparently, when I do this for kids, they know all of the reactions. There's a reactions button at the bottom of your Zoom thing that tells you whether you got a thumb up. I will accept waving, and that will work too.
I feel more and more like my mother every single day. I'll tell you that.
I hear that. Pam, so introduce yourself and then name the speaker and then ask your question.
I am Pam Paolina with Makula Web Solutions and BucksCountyAlive.com. Couple questions for Langdon, Ellen. So, do you guys do anything in particular when it comes to promoting zero waste in the office and also at your employees' residence?
That's a good question. So for waste at our office in Doylestown, we conducted a waste audit a couple of years ago where we went around and made sure every employee had a recycling bin and a trash bin in their office space. And then on top of that, we went to the maintenance of our building and said, hey, are you separating our recycling from our waste? And it turns out they weren't. So we had them fix that. It was just, one of those simple fixes where I believe the cleaning service only had one trash can on their cart. So Langen paid for new carts that just had 2 cans so they could put recycling in one and then trash in the other. So we've done little things like that in the Doylestown office. I can't speak to any other offices since I don't do sustainability efforts in those.
That's funny. It's one of those things that's so simple that you don't know until you ask the question, right? Pam, you said you had a couple questions?
Yeah, Melissa. First of all, you're like a rock star to me. What you've done is so unbelievable and so cool. I came and visited it with my dad and my daughter while it was being built at Bell Down. It was so much fun to go see it. So congratulations to you. Are there any tax benefits to having a tiny home?
Tax benefits?
So like if you own a home, you're paying a mortgage and you're getting a reduction in taxes. What is a tiny home considered? I mean, is it kind of like an RV where it's just a separate purchase, or can you take out a mortgage type loan on a tiny home?
I think some of the tiny house, well, first of all, thank you for your compliments. It's very kind. And I remember you from stopping into the tiny house. So thanks for your support throughout the process. And in terms of tax breaks, so I know a couple of the tiny house building companies, I think like Liberation Tiny Homes, they're out of Lancaster, and a couple of the other bigger companies. I think they've recently started doing some financing programs for tiny houses, and that's pretty new on the scene because they are such small and reasonable ways to live. That really wasn't a thing a couple years back, but I think that has started. And then in terms of taxes, no, I think still that in the state of Pennsylvania, they're categorizing tiny houses as modular homes or mobile homes. So there's really no tax benefit at the moment. It's still kind of a gray area. Other states like Colorado or California are much more progressive and have different benefits, but in Pennsylvania, not that I know of.
So you're not paying a property tax then, right?
No.
Awesome.
I'm
So
not.
that's a big benefit right there. So, okay.
Yeah, as long as you find somebody that welcomes you on their property, and there's some type of reciprocity there, then seems to be working for me so far.
And it's a very nice property you're on as well too. I like your neighbors.
Yeah,
Got
it is
these neighbors with a yard full of ponies, which is pretty awesome. So.
What
Great.
about water filtration? How do you handle water filtration?
Sure. So when the water comes into the house, the first level of filtration is there's just some very small screens that I need to go up and clean out periodically. Like recently with all the pollen, I need to keep those clean. So that's going to get out the first layer of debris. And then there's another inline filter in the house that filters out smaller scale debris. And that's good enough for showering and things like that. But then in terms of drinking, then I put the water through a Berkey filtration system, which is a large stainless steel charcoal filter station in the house. So it goes through there for any drinking or cooking.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, Tom, I thought I saw your hand, Tom. Did you have a question?
I actually have two questions from Melissa. One is on, I guess, on the taxes. The first question, I guess, so you could either own the land that your house is on, right? Or in that you pay tax on that land, just as like a land tax would. Or in your case, you just have an agreement with the owner of the land and work out whatever arrangement there. Kind of almost like a mobile home park where you may or may not pay rent to them for that access to that land.
And you can have tiny houses in a mobile home park for sure. And the tricky thing that I've come across so far with buying land and putting a tiny house on it is that they want you within, I forget the amount of time of purchasing land, but to set up a septic system.
That was my second question with the water system and the septic system. How is that handled from a permitting standpoint?
Yeah, so right now all my rainwater, like I said, is caught, and then it is filtered out through a gray water system outside, and then I use a dry toilet. So I'm actually composting my waste to use on my fruit trees and my flowering trees.
Got it.
Yep. So it's really important with sustainability, with tiny house living, with off-grid living, that we're doing it properly. Because if we're not educated, and that's why the education factor around off-grid living is so important, because if it's not done properly, and if people are using, detrimental soaps, washing detergents, anything, any chemicals, any cleaners in their home that are not good for the environment, it can cause a detriment. So really making sure there's a lot of education around it is very, very important, so that we're actually doing good for the planet instead of doing worse.
Do you have access to water if needed, or 100% rainwater?
In a pinch, so it fills that 50-gallon rainwater tank that's inside, and then when that overflows, it fills up an outside tank. So say I run out of the water inside, I can pump the water from the external tank back into the internal tank. And then if we get in a real tough spot, like we go into drought, I've only had to do it a couple times, but I can run a hose from a water source that's connected to the property and put the hose in the gutter and fill my tank like that. Luckily, I've only had to do that a couple times.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Great. So a brief follow-up, Melissa, then. So you were talking about it's all the important point here is just about being educated. Take a few seconds, tell us a little bit about Beyond Sustainability and how our viewers can basically educate themselves at your website.
Sure. So my website is misalifestyle.com, but you can also use Beyond, B with two E's, BEE, beyondsustainability.com. And that'll take you to my Misa Lifestyle website, but a component of it, which is all about eco-education. So Beyond Sustainability is a virtual eco-education program. Right now there's 3 different courses: Eco Mind, Green Home, and Sacred Water. So each course kind of touches on each of those topics. Eco Mind being more the psychological component of, reconnecting with nature and realizing that it's our duty as humans on this planet to be stewards to the planet, and how we can be doing that in our own homes on a daily basis, more with our choices and conscious consumerism, things of that nature. And then there's Sacred Water. It's vital to our health and our existence on this planet. So making sure that we are not polluting water, we're reducing our usage of water, and we are drinking good, clean, filtered water for our health. So how to do that in the home more efficiently. And then also Green Home. So this is a course that takes you room by room throughout your home to reduce toxins. And, we did touch a few moments ago on trash removal, recycling, things of that nature, but it goes so much farther. Actually, I teach a 7-step system for waste management, that there should actually be 7 piles as opposed to 2, the garbage or the landfill and recycling pile. So there's way more ways that we can be turning our quote unquote waste into a viable energy that can be used for something else instead of just thrown in landfill.
Great. Hey, thank you very much. What other questions do we have for our speakers today, gang? If you are not on video, you will need to use your reactions button because if you're waving your hands, I can't see you. So I had one for Tom Marino. I wanted to reach out. So Tom, I know that you were with Atrium and during our meeting, when I interviewed you, you mentioned that your firm has a way to screen for measuring my investments for my values. Is that something that other companies that you know of, or is that something specific to your firm?
It should be. I guess you could really, as a financial advisor, I imagine many advisors have access to a lot of different products that are out there. I specifically work with clients that request it, so I get very familiar with it. I also work with businesses on the 401k plans to set that up as well. A lot of people that are working for companies realize their investments are kind of out of whack with their corporate values as well, and don't realize that they can actually do it. So yeah, so I would encourage, if you have an investment advisor, if you have a 401k plan advisor, ask them about, and the key word you're hearing out there in the buzzword is called ESG investing. If you ask them about, what do you do for ESG investing? And there's a variety of screens you can put in place depending on what your requirements are, whether it's just your carbon footprint. It may be more complex than that too as well.
And ESG stands for?
Oh, environmental, social, and governance. So environment, social, governance is diversity on boards, that kind of stuff as well.
So if you wanted to ban foreign investment, to places like New Jersey, you could probably set that up, right?
You could.
Sorry, bad joke. I know you're looking at foreign government. So any other questions for our speakers? We had so many interesting topics. George spoke about, energy audits for the home. I uncovered a very important thing from him, because when I talked to him, for me, it was important to know, if I order an energy audit, do I need to clean my whole house before it gets there? And he told me that no, you do not. So I think that's important. And more importantly, though, is you're going to save energy and save money as well. So it's good when you can do something good for the environment and something good for your pocketbook as well, too. Folks, I am seeing hands. This is where it's, Pam, what do you got for me?
Another one for George. So I had Pico come out and do an energy audit for me. And I found that there were so many little things, not little things, there were so many, they gave me a big list of what I should do. But when I calculated out the benefit and the long-term cost, how long it would take to repay whatever I did, almost nothing was worth it to do. If you were to give just like a couple of big things that people generally should do, like replace their refrigerator if it's more than 20 years old or whatever, what would you say the major things would be?
Sure, that's a good question, Pam. Thanks. Yeah, and there is a lot of things you can do to improve the house. And I'll say just first that looking at it from a financial standpoint, like, is there a cost benefit strictly on the dollars? It doesn't always look like it's not going to maybe pay back in the next year or two. It might take 10 years to pay back on some of the larger projects for you. But you did mention a couple of good ones there, like if you have an old refrigerator that is not Energy Star, those are probably a good candidate for upgrading. For the house overall, I would say the major thing that houses haven't had up until recently is trying to stop the drafts through the house. So we've gotten pretty good about getting insulation in the house, but we sort of forgot the air sealing, the drafts, until just recently. So a lot of houses were built with lots of gaps and cracks in the walls and in the ceilings in the basement. If we can seal those up, that's probably the best return on your investment.
Thank you,
Do
George.
you do the actual work, or do you partner with contractors who do the work?
Well, interestingly, you mentioned PICO. That's actually the company I work for is the company that administers the PICO energy assessments. So our group goes out and would be the one who came out to your house to do your energy assessment for you.
So I wanted to ask Linda a question. Linda, I kind of think it's important because a lot of people think when they're thinking of going carbon neutral, or they think of carbonfund.org, that this is for large companies. What's the smallest company that you typically work with?
Thanks, Scott. We actually have a program that's intended for companies with 20 or fewer full-time employees. And it doesn't require the company to actually calculate their estimated annual operating emissions, because many startup companies or smaller companies really just don't have access to the data they need. And so it just allows a company to get started on a carbon emissions reduction strategy and move towards carbon neutrality if they wish. And so for companies with 1 to 5 full-time employees, they can make a donation of $360 to Carbon Fund. We use those funds to purchase and retire 36 metric tons of carbon credits. And so the company is able to claim that they have made that donation that reduces that much in carbon emissions by supporting projects through their activities that are actually making those reductions in carbon emissions. They're either energy efficiency projects, renewable energy projects, or forest conservation, reforestation projects.
So does Carbon Fund help the business owner with actually marketing that? So you were very careful to include like how many metric tons. So do you recommend that your customers promote that in their marketing materials?
We do, and we do help them market it. So we want to be very careful with companies that are just getting started. If they have not actually calculated their own estimating operating emissions, we don't want them making claims of carbon neutrality because they don't know, they haven't calculated their footprint. And so we help them talk about initiating programs, making steps towards emission reductions. And we can take that 36 metric ton figure, which doesn't mean much to most people, and convert it through a calculator that the Environmental Protection Agency makes available that takes 36 metric tons and turns it into things like, that's the same as taking this many cars off the road for the year, or powering this many average US homes for a year, or planting this many trees and allowing those trees to grow and survive and sequester carbon dioxide emissions over a 10-year period.
Okay, thank you. Ellen, I wanted to swing back to Langen. At Langen, how do you promote this? It sounds like this is a lot of work that the company has put on, you've dedicated yourselves to it. Do you promote it? Is it part of your marketing?
Yes, this is part of our marketing. If you've ever received an email from us, that's part of our email signature as well. And it's also advertised on our website, I believe. So it's a pretty big marketing tool for us.
I would think it would be, since you're also, you do environmental work as well as engineering too. So folks, do we have any other questions for our speakers? If we don't have any other questions, I want to thank everybody. I especially want to thank our speakers. I can't wait to see everybody in person. If you have any interest in the environment or in architecture, I invite you to come check out the Architectural and Environmental Committee at the Central Bucks Chamber of Commerce. We meet monthly. Currently, we're meeting digitally. We'd love to have you to join us. We get a chance to put on great programs like this. I think we've got one that's going to be coming up on saving the Delaware Canal. We're working on that right now. And then we've got our tour, which is going to be coming up the last Sunday of September. We'll be doing a walking tour. You'll be able to hear all about what's going on in Dublin, the historic work, and what's happening right now. If you've driven through there, there's a lot of development going on right now. So we'll be doing a walking tour for that. So watch your emails for that as well. With that, I want to thank the Central Bucks Chamber of Commerce, the A&E Committee, and especially want to thank Melissa, Alan, Linda, George, and Tom. I very much appreciate your activity. Thank you, Brad, our liaison, for helping to put all this together, and thank all of you for coming today and asking your questions.
Hey, Scott, I think Melissa had something. I saw her hand raised. I'm not sure if she still has a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in on one little thing. You know, there's this great website called footprintcalculator.org, and it's a good tool for us all to use for our home. So what you do is just ask you some questions, and then it tells you how many earths it takes to sustain your lifestyle. So I think it's a great just practice of awareness, because I think it's the most common number is like each individual on the planet takes about 7 planets to sustain their lifestyle. So a good way to just kind of get some awareness around what changes we can make. And then just one other little thing, you know, a lot of us don't have, maybe we don't own our homes or we don't have the money to transition to renewable energy, but there's a few companies out there, quite a few now, but 2 to name: Clean Energy, or Clean Choice, sorry, and then Green Mountain Energy, where you're still paying like you're paying your Pico bill, but you're ensured that the energy is coming from renewable resources like solar and wind. So there's ways to get renewable energy into our home, even if we don't have solar panels on our roof.
And to piggyback on that, I recently looked into one where it's Clean Energy, and what they do is they just basically take your energy bill and they average it out, so you're paying the same monthly fee, so you can plan your costs throughout the year. So you've got 2 guarantees. One is you're going to keep the same bill, and you're going to be able to get clean energy. So that was a good point as well too. If there's anything else for the good of the cause, seeing nothing, I want to wrap. I'm sorry, Tom, what do you got?
No, I was saying bye.
Oh, all right. That was bye, not hey, I got a question. All right, great.
2 hands are bye.
Awesome. Well, thank you all very much for this, and I'll see you all around, and have a great day. Take care.
I'll say bye. Bye.
Thank you. So long.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.